time for Monday music and more. So we've got a few songs. We've got a story from a kind of a newish book that I got. So let's go ahead and get started. And we'll get started the way that we usually do, by greeting each other. And we'll use Hinei Mah Tov. And we'll use the one that a lot of your adults may be already familiar with, and you might be familiar with too, from stuff if you've been at Mahar. So let's get started. Hinei Mah Tov u'manayim shevet amim gam yachad. Hinei Mah Tov u'manayim shevet amim gam yachad. Hinei Mah Tov shevet amim gam yachad. And like it does every week, Hinei Mah Tov is a song that just welcomes everyone by saying how good it is when people sit together, dwell together, however you want to put that. So I'm glad that you're with us. I hope that you're glad that you're with us, although maybe if your parents just plopped you down in front of us, maybe you're not terribly thrilled to be with us. That's okay too. I'm just glad you're here. So that was Hinei Mah Tov. We've greeted each other. We have a couple of other songs. So we've got Oseh Shalom, or Oseh Shalom, right, with a melody from a song called Oseh Shalom. And then we've got a song that we've done a couple of times before, called Where You Go. It's also the start of a new Jewish month right around now. So the Jewish month that just started is Cheshvan. So last month was Tishrei in the Jewish calendar, and Tishrei has all kinds of holidays. It has Rosh Hashanah, it has Yom Kippur, it has Sukkot, it has Shmini Atzeret, it has Simchat Torah, and obviously it has lots of Shabbats, right? Every weekend is a Shabbat. This month is called Cheshvan or Mar Cheshvan, and there's good news about this month, which is there aren't any holidays, so there's not a whole bunch of extra stuff to do. There's Shabbats, if you want to do Shabbats, there's this kind of thing, but nobody's going to make you go to Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur services, right? That kind of thing. So for a lot of people, that's a nice break. For rabbis, it's a nice break because we work for months all the way up until the high holidays start, and then we work all the way through the high holidays. So this is a nice break because now I get to just focus on the everyday stuff that I want to do, like this. So I think this is a nice break for me. I know that what you're really looking forward to is the next month. The next month in the Jewish calendar is Kislev, which lots of people like because Kislev means Hanukkah. So Hanukkah's good, presents, right? Presents and chocolate, and winter break is coming up from school. But we're not there yet. We're still in this month. We just started Cheshvan. So here we are. We've done our first song. We'll do our next song. So our next song is called Where You Go. And I mentioned last time that it's a song that really only one word changes from verse to verse to verse, so it's pretty easy to learn. It's in English, so again, pretty easy to learn. And it's really focused on welcoming refugees. But we can change the words to make it work for welcoming all kinds of people and talking about being in solidarity, talking about being together with and helping lots of other people. And we use this at Mahar sometimes, so it's, if you're a Mahar person, it's a nice song to know, because I sometimes put it in Shabbat. So this is Where You Go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you lie, I will lie, beloved. Where you lie, I will lie. Where you lie, I will lie, beloved. Where you lie, I will lie. Your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. Your people are mine. Where you go, I will go, refugee. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, refugee. Where you go, I will go. Where you lie, I will lie, refugee. Where you lie, I will lie. Where you lie, I will lie, refugee. Where you lie, I will lie. Your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. Your people are mine. Where you go, I will go, children. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, children. Where you go, I will go. Where you lie, I will lie, children. Where you lie, I will lie. Where you lie, I will lie, children. Where you lie, I will lie. Your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. Your people are mine. So you saw we could just pull things out. Beloved and refugee and children and all kinds of other words can go in and out of there. That's technically called a zipper song, because you kind of like unzip the song, you put in a different word and you zip it back up and you sing it again. So you can put in lots and lots and lots of different words into a zipper song. That's a zipper song. So we've done a couple of songs. We talked about how there's no big Jewish holidays coming up for actually more than a month in our calendar, although pretty soon it'll be Halloween and then it'll be Thanksgiving, but those aren't really Jewish holidays. They're our regular secular calendar holidays. But we also have a story for today. So grab your grown-up. Grown-up, I'm reading from a book called Honey on the Page from New York University Press. It's translated Yiddish children's stories. It's big. There's not a lot of pictures. Some of the stories are really short, some of them are long, and there's some poems too. It's worth getting for just the total number of stories. There's a bunch of stories in here, so you can keep going back through them over time. And today, we're going to talk about a town called Chelm. So maybe you've heard of Chelm, and maybe you haven't. Chelm is There is a place in Eastern Europe called Chelm. The stories about the Jews of Chelm aren't particularly great stories. They're not nice about the people who live in Chelm. They're called the wise fools of Chelm. They have a rabbi. The rabbi's not usually all that smart. They have people. They're kind of foolish, sort of wise, but in weird ways. So we've got a story from Chelm, and this story is called A Deal's a Deal. It was a cold, rainy autumn night in Chelm. The wind had torn open door and shutters, and in the middle of the night Avraham heard the door banging. So he woke up his wife Myrtle and said to her, "Wifey dear, did you lock the door?" Myrtle replied, "Honey dear, I thought that you had locked it." "I didn't," said Avraham. "Go and lock it." "You go and lock it," said Myrtle. Said Avraham, "You can see where this is going, right?" Said Avraham, "No, I'm not going downstairs in this cold, and surely you know that when I say no, it's no." And said Myrtle, "The whole world knows that when a man is a rabbi, his wife is called a rebbitzin. When a man is Mr. Shoemaker, then his wife is Mrs. Shoemaker. You're Mr. Stubborn, my husband, so that makes me Mrs. Stubborn. I, too, am staying in bed and not moving a muscle." Said Avraham, "What you say makes sense. You know what? Let's make a deal with each other. Whichever one of us is the first to speak will lock the door." Said Myrtle, "Deal." So they lay there in silence. The wind blew and the door banged and banged until the house shuddered, but both of them kept quiet, and neither moved a muscle, because whoever talks first has to get out of bed in the cold to close and lock the door. The rain poured, the wind blew. Inside the house it was wet and cold enough to drive away wolves, but Avraham and Myrtle didn't budge. Just before dawn, husband and wife heard footsteps and human voices. Thieves were talking. One thief said, "Just look at that open door. Let's go inside and see what we can lift." Said the second thief, "Don't talk so loud. Maybe the owners are home and they're sleeping." "Don't be ridiculous," answered the first one. "You hear how the door's banging? That would wake the dead. Chances are nobody's home. Come on." Husband and wife heard the thieves come into the house and start to empty out all the rooms, but husband and wife didn't move a muscle. The thieves did their work and packed up everything they could get their hands on. Husband and wife knew their home would be left naked and bare, but they didn't let out a peep, because whoever talks first has to go and lock the door. Does this seem very smart to you? That they left the door unlocked the whole time, and this is what happens, and they won't even get up when they hear people coming into the house. I don't think this is very smart. The thieves gathered everything together and took off, and they left the door open as they found it. Night passed and morning came. Husband and wife got up and looked around. The house was empty. The thieves didn't even leave so much as a saucepan to cook up a bit of porridge for breakfast. Husband and wife exchanged glances, but remained silent, because whoever talks first has to close the door. And Avraham is Mr. Stubborn, and Myrtle is Mrs. Stubborn. Myrtle went out to a neighbor's to borrow something for breakfast, but as for closing the door, that Mrs. Stubborn didn't do. She got to the neighbor's and lingered there for a long while chatting. Meanwhile, a barber was passing by with the house with the door open. In those days, barbers would go from door to door asking who wanted a haircut and clipping the hair of both children and adults right at home. The barber saw Avraham sitting silently on a chair in the middle of the house, lost in thought, so he said, "Perhaps you'd like a trim, Reb Avraham." Avraham kept quiet and didn't answer. "Well, when you don't say no, that obviously means yes, right?" So the barber laid out his towel, his scissors, his bowl, his soap, and his razor, and went about the job. He snipped, and then he asked, "Enough, Rev Avraham?" Avraham was silent. So the barber went on clipping. Avraham began to look like a shorn sheep. The barber asked, "Enough?" Avraham was silent, so the barber thought, what kind of a hard case is this? Well, so be it. There's only one thing to do. So he took the soap, lathered up Avraham's head, and shaved it. Having done so, the barber said, "Such a long beard doesn't go with a bare pate. Trim it a bit?" Avraham was silent. Mr. Stubborn through and through. And the barber started in on his head, on his beard, cutting, and Avraham was silent. The barber spared no effort in shaving off Avraham's beautiful beard. Avraham kept silent through it all. The barber gathered his towel, his scissors, his bowl, and his soap, and said to Avraham, "Well, Reb Avraham, I've trimmed and shaved you, so pay me." Avraham seethed and boiled inside. Who had asked the barber to cut and shave his hair? And what's more, he wanted to be paid for his lovely work. Some nice new look he'd gotten, a Jew without a beard. How could he show himself in public? Thus reasoned Reb Avraham, but he kept silent. He surely wouldn't be the first to speak, because then he'd have to get up and lock the door. The barber complained, "I'm a Jew, a poor man, I've worked, now pay me." The barber talked and talked, but Avraham said nothing, and eventually the barber got angry and said, "Is that how it is? You're stubborn? You don't want to answer? I'll teach you a lesson." And the barber didn't hold back. He went out into the street, picked up large handfuls of mud, and began to smear it all over Avraham's shaved head and face. And then he left the house without even shutting the door. No sooner did the barber leave than Myrtle, Avraham's wife, come in. She took one look at Avraham and clapped her hands together, saying, "Woe is me! What did they do to you? You look just like a demon." Avraham got up from his chair and said very calmly, "You were the first to speak, so please go and close the door." And Myrtle went and closed the door. After all, a deal's a deal. Not so smart. So stubborn. No one would get to close the door. No one would talk. And because the door was open, what happened? Somebody took all of the food. Somebody took all of the pots and pans. Somebody took all of their stuff. And then, because Reb Avraham wouldn't talk, the barber came in and cut off all of his hair. And then he wouldn't say, "But I didn't want you to." And so he didn't pay the barber. The moral of the story is sometimes you have to not be too stubborn. And they were too stubborn. But this is the wisdom of the wise people of Chelm, because after all, they made a deal. The first person to talk had to close the door. Kind of a weird story, right? But this is the kind of story that is told about the people who lived in Chelm. Sometimes they're right about a little thing, but they're wrong about everything else, which happens to a lot of us. So we talked about the wise people of Chelm, and there's many, many, many more Chelm stories, so I'm sure we'll do more Chelm stories over time. We talked about the wise people of Chelm. We had a couple of songs. We talked about how we don't have a whole bunch of holidays, so right now, if I ask you what the next Jewish holiday is, you're absolutely correct to say Shabbat, and that will be the right answer basically until Hanukkah, almost until Hanukkah. So, what's the next Jewish holiday? Shabbat. We talked about that. We talked about a couple of songs that we did. We have a song left to do. And the song that we have left to do is Oseh Shalom. So Oseh Shalom means let us make peace. And there's lots and lots and lots of different melodies. Last Friday, if you watched the Fast Friday Shabbat, we did a new melody. We're not going to do that one today. We're going to review one that we probably already know, but it's good to know it because lots of people know that version of Oseh Shalom. Oseh Shalom ba'olam, Oseh Shalom aleinu, ve'al kol ha'olam, ve'imru shalom, Oseh Shalom ba'olam, Oseh Shalom aleinu, ve'al kol ha'olam, ve'imru shalom. Shalom, Oseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Oseh Shalom, Oseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Oseh Shalom, Oseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Oseh Shalom, Oseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Oseh Shalom, Oseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. We'll really quickly do the other Oseh Shalom by a band called Nava Tehila. So they sing at Oseh Shalom, we'll sing at Oseh Shalom. Ready? Oseh Shalom ba'olam, Oseh Shalom aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam, ve'al kol ha'olam, ve'imru shalom. Oseh Shalom ba'olam, Oseh Shalom aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam, ve'al kol ha'olam, ve'imru shalom, ve'imru shalom. So we did two Oseh Shaloms. You got more bang for your buck, I guess. We did Where You Go. We did Hinei Mah Tov. And we had a story about the wise, or not so wise, people of Chelm. So I hope you had a little bit of fun. And I hope I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.